A 68-year-old grandmother in Southern Oregon had been sleeping in her car for 7 months. She had worked her entire adult life, raised 3 children, and paid taxes for over 4 decades. Then her rent went up by a few $100s. Her fixed income stayed the same. And just like that, she was living out of a sedan in a parking lot. Her name was Margaret. Her neighbors at the old apartment knew her. They liked her. But nobody did anything about it. Then one day, a group of volunteers took a retired school bus, spent a few $100s on salvaged lumber and basic materials, and turned it into a tiny home with a kitchen, a bathroom, a wood-burning stove, and a bed with clean sheets. When Margaret walked through the door for the first time, she stood in the middle of that bus and cried. Not because it was small, because it was hers. But here's the part of this story that should bother everyone watching. While volunteers across America are converting old school buses into homes for seniors like Margaret, the federal government has spent hundreds of millions of dollars on housing programs that keep cycling those same seniors right back onto the streets. And when Margaret tried to find a legal place to park her new home, she ran into zoning laws that were written decades before anyone imagined a 68-year-old grandmother would need to live in a bus. The system designed to protect neighborhoods was now working against the very people those neighborhoods forgot. To understand why a $300 school bus conversion is outperforming programs that cost 1,000 times as much, you need to understand the scale of what is happening to older Americans right now. Seniors are the fastest growing group of people experiencing homelessness in the United States. According to the most recent federal data, people aged 50 and older have gone from roughly 10% of the homeless population to nearly half. And the systems that are supposed to catch them were never designed for people over 60. About 146,000 older adults experienced homelessness in the most recent count from the Department of Housing and Urban Development. That is a 6% increase from just the year before. Researchers at the University of Pennsylvania estimate that the number of elderly homeless people in America is on track to triple by 2030. A researcher named Dennis Culhane, who has been tracking this for years, said publicly that the growth has actually been slightly higher than predicted. The numbers are accelerating, not slowing down. If you are watching this and you are over 55, these numbers are not about strangers. They are about people who had the same kind of life you have right now. A job, a home, a routine. And then one unexpected bill changed everything. The reasons are painfully simple. Rents keep climbing. Social security checks do not keep up. And for seniors living on fixed incomes, one unexpected expense, a medical bill, a car repair, a rent increase of even a few $100s, can be the difference between having a home and sleeping in a parking lot. Advocates in Florida are calling it the silver tsunami. A third of all homeless people in some counties are now baby boomers. But unlike younger people experiencing homelessness, seniors face problems that stack on top of each other. They have mobility issues. They have chronic health conditions. They need medications that require refrigeration. They cannot climb into bunk beds at traditional shelters. They cannot sleep on floor mats without risking falls. A woman named Caitlin Sinovec with the National Health Care for the Homeless Council put it bluntly. She said that sometimes seniors cannot be safely served in shelters because they have issues with incontinence or cognition, and they are more likely to end up unsheltered and living on the streets as a result. Seniors are also significantly more likely to die on the streets than younger people. The average life expectancy for a homeless person is 25 to 30 years shorter than the general population, and for seniors already dealing with heart disease, diabetes, or limited mobility, that gap closes even faster. This is a population that served their communities, raised families, worked decades of jobs, and now finds itself with nowhere safe to sleep at night. And that brings us to the school buses. There are roughly 480,000 school buses operating across the United States, carrying 25 million children to school every single day. School districts typically retire these buses after about 12 years of service. The engines still run. The frames are solid. The steel shells are already insulated. And each one has about 240 square feet of usable interior space. That is bigger than many studio apartments in cities like New York or San Francisco. Most of these retired buses get auctioned off for a few $1,000s. Some get scrapped. But a growing number of Americans have started looking at those yellow buses and seeing something entirely different. They see 240 square feet of possibility. A freelance journalist named Julie Atkins was living in Ashland, Oregon, when she first stumbled onto this idea. She had been researching homelessness for a book and spent 2 years living alongside homeless people in Denver, Colorado, pitching a tent right next to them to understand what their lives were actually like. What she found surprised her. The people she met did not want handouts. They wanted something of their own, something safe, something they could lock at night. And they wanted to be mobile so they could get to better jobs. Then Atkins came across a family living in an old school bus. A mother, a father, and 7 children. They had ripped out the seats and were sleeping on mattresses on the bare floor. There was no toilet, no shower, no kitchen. The bus was in disarray. And eventually, because that mother could not provide a safe home for her children, she lost custody of all 7 of them. That moment changed Julie Atkins. She did not start a committee. She did not write a policy paper. She founded a nonprofit called Vehicles for Changes in 2017 and started converting donated school buses into fully functional tiny homes. Her team strips the buses down to the bolts, insulates the walls, wraps the interior in wood, and installs full kitchens, tile showers, bathrooms, bedrooms, and wood-burning stoves. The finished product looks nothing like a school bus on the inside. It looks like a cabin, a warm, bright, clean home with a front door that locks. The buses come donated from local school districts. Volunteers do the labor. Salvaged and recycled materials keep costs low. A basic interior conversion using donated lumber and supplies can start with as little as $300 worth of materials from a hardware store. More complete builds with a kitchen, plumbing, and electrical run between $5,000 and $10,000 when volunteer labor and donated materials are factored in. Compare that to the average cost of a single unit of affordable housing in a city like Los Angeles or San Francisco, which regularly exceeds $500,000 per unit. A builder named Alex Danielle, who had spent years designing and building tiny houses for homeless people in Eugene, Oregon, saw what Atkins was doing and immediately offered to help. He started designing and building schoolies alongside volunteers from the community. He told a reporter something that stuck with a lot of people. He said that if families do not get split apart and the kids stay in school, they do not end up on the street long term. But once somebody has been on the street for a while, it is incredibly hard to find their way back in. Now here is the detail that makes these bus conversions especially important for seniors, and why traditional shelters keep failing them. The U.S. Government Accountability Office found that many older adults with mobility limitations struggle to use the bunk beds commonly found in shelters. Seniors reported slipping on wet bathroom floors. Others described having to sleep on floor mats with no way to get up without help. Some shelters have started eliminating bunk beds or increasing space between beds for wheelchairs and medical equipment, but most do not have the room or the resources to adapt. A converted school bus solves several of these problems at once. The living space is on one level. There are no stairs to climb. The bed can be built at a height that is easy for an older person to get in and out of. A small bathroom means no long walk down a hallway in the middle of the night. Grab bars can be installed for a few dollars. The bus can be parked at an RV park with water, electricity, and sewer hookups, giving the resident full utilities. But the advantage that matters most for seniors is one that no shelter and no apartment can offer. Mobility. If a senior needs to follow medical specialists to a different city, or wants to be near grandchildren in another state, or simply needs to move south for the winter because their body cannot handle the cold anymore, the bus goes with them. It drives. For someone over 65, that is not just shelter. That is the ability to make choices about your own life at an age when most of the world has decided you do not get to make choices anymore. One of the biggest dangers for anyone living without stable shelter, especially seniors, is cold exposure. Hypothermia can set in within hours in an unheated space, and older adults lose body heat faster because of thinner skin, lower metabolism, and medications that affect circulation. A lot of people keep extra blankets around, but cotton blankets absorb moisture and actually make things worse. Some of the bus conversion crews now tuck emergency thermal gear into their builds before handing them over. One item that keeps coming up is a reflective-lined sleeping bag that traps your body heat without needing batteries or any setup. TerraShell makes one that fits in a glove box or a go bag. I have heard from viewers who keep them in their cars, their closets, and even send them to older relatives living alone. If that sounds like something useful for you or someone you care about, I put a link in the description below. It is one of those products that is better to have and never need than to need and not have. Now, while volunteers have been spending their weekends and their own money converting school buses into homes for seniors, the government track record on senior homelessness has been, to put it generously, mixed. The waitlist for subsidized senior housing in many cities stretches years. In some places, the wait is 5 to 7 years. For a 72-year-old sleeping between parked cars in a Florida parking lot, a 5-year waitlist might as well be a life sentence, and the contrast is staggering. A full school bus conversion using donated materials and volunteer labor can be completed in 3 to 5 months and provide a senior with a safe, warm, dignified home for under $10,000. A single unit of government-funded affordable housing takes years to permit, years to build, and costs hundreds of thousands of dollars. The bus is not a perfect solution. It is not a mansion, but it is a locked door, a warm bed, a working kitchen, and a toilet that flushes. For someone who has been sleeping in a car or on the ground, that is everything. But even when a bus is built and a senior is ready to move in, there is still the fight with local government. Zoning laws in many American cities were written decades ago, and they never imagined a 240-square-foot house on wheels as a legitimate residence. In some cities, a volunteer crew can convert a bus in a single weekend, but the permit process to park it legally takes over a year. Building codes designed for 3-bedroom houses get applied to a vehicle with a bed and a hot plate. Cities that should be thanking volunteers for solving a problem they could not solve themselves are instead sending code enforcement officers to issue citations. The people building these buses are not asking for money. They are not asking for recognition. They are just asking to be left alone long enough to give someone a roof. And in too many places, even that is too much to ask. There is a man in Montana named Ron Frisbee. He is 72 years old. He had worked most of his life, paid his bills, done everything the way you are supposed to do it. Then a series of setbacks hit one after another, and he ended up sleeping between parked cars on a patch of grass. He told a reporter that was where he would stay at night, right there in the grass between the cars. No blankets some nights. No one checking on him. Eventually, a local nonprofit helped get him off the street and into a shelter, but by then the damage was done. His health deteriorated rapidly. Both of his legs had to be amputated. For seniors like Ron, the window between losing housing and losing everything else, health, mobility, independence, can be terrifyingly short. A bus conversion that takes 4 months could have changed his entire trajectory. A government program with a 3-year waitlist could not. And this is the part that separates the bus movement from every other approach. The skoolie movement, as builders and residents call it, has tapped into something the traditional shelter system completely misses: pride. When David Flood and his family moved into their converted school bus in Ashland, Oregon, parked at a local RV park, he told a reporter something that has stayed with people ever since. He said he could not believe their luck, that the bus was working for his family, that he was finishing his master's degree inside it. He had been living in a car for 7 months with his wife and children, roaming parking lots looking for a place to sleep. The skoolie gave him a stable address, a quiet place to study, and a real front door. He told the reporter that it is not just the uneducated who end up homeless. He was finishing his master's degree and had nowhere to work before the bus gave him that space. The movement has started to spread beyond Oregon. In Denver, where Julie Atkins first witnessed the homelessness crisis up close, community groups have begun organizing bus conversion projects specifically targeting seniors aging out of shelters. Churches in the Midwest have started hosting build days where retired carpenters and plumbers donate their skills to convert donated buses. One congregation in Missouri organized a conversion weekend where a dozen volunteers gutted and reframed an entire bus interior in 48 hours. They brought their own tools, their own sandwiches, and worked until the sun went down both days. In communities across the country, retired tradespeople, the same generation as many of the seniors they are building for, are showing up with their own tools and spending weekends turning empty school buses into homes. Some of these volunteers are in their 60s and 70s themselves. They know what a fixed income feels like. They know how quickly things can unravel when one piece of the financial puzzle falls out of place. And they know that the person sleeping in that parking lot could just as easily be them if the cards had fallen differently. That awareness drives them to keep building. What makes these projects different from government programs is speed and dignity. A volunteer crew can strip a bus, insulate it, frame the interior, install plumbing and electrical, and have a senior move in within 90 to 120 days. The senior gets a say in the layout. They get to choose where the bed goes, what color the walls are, whether there is space for a reading chair by the window. These details might sound small, but for someone who has spent months or years with no control over where they sleep or what happens to their belongings, choosing a wall color is an act of reclaiming your life. And here is something worth thinking about. There are roughly 480,000 school buses operating in the United States right now. Every year, thousands of them are retired. Most of those buses still run. Most of them have solid frames, working engines, and enough interior space to house a person comfortably. Meanwhile, 146,000 seniors have nowhere to sleep tonight. The math is not complicated. Some communities are starting to do the math themselves. In Oregon, local school districts have begun donating retired buses directly to nonprofits, like Vehicles for Changes, instead of sending them to auction. RV parks in several states have started setting aside spaces specifically for converted bus homes. And the broader tiny home movement, which has already produced thousands of units across the country, is increasingly focusing on seniors as the population most in need. So how are Americans turning old school buses that cost $300 into tiny homes for homeless seniors? The same way they have always solved the hardest problems. Julie Atkins saw a family of 9 sleeping on mattresses on a bare bus floor and founded a nonprofit. Alex Danielle saw her work and drove across Oregon to help. Retired carpenters in churches across the Midwest are picking up their tool on Saturday mornings and building kitchens inside donated buses for people they have never met. There are still 146,000 seniors out there tonight with nowhere to go. Some of them are sleeping between parked cars. Some of them are in shelters where they cannot use the bunk beds. Some of them are in hospital waiting rooms, because it is the only warm place they can find. But somewhere in Oregon, a 68-year-old grandmother is standing in the doorway of a converted school bus with a wood-burning stove crackling behind her and clean sheets on the bed. And for the first time in 7 months, she is home. If this video opened your eyes, click the video on screen right now. The story I covered there connects directly to what you just watched. I will see you in that one.